Straight ahead on Law&Crime Daily. The so-called doomsday cult duo. Prosecutors announced they will seek the death penalty for Lori Vallow Daybell. But first,
this is the most painful and difficult thing I've ever gone through.
Amber Heard takes the stand in the contentious defamation lawsuit. Plus,
I knew it was wrong, and I knew that I had to leave him. And that's what broke my heart.
What she says caused Johnny Depp to become abusive. And later, a forensic psychologist describes Depp's alleged abuse.
When Mr. Depp was drunk or high, he threw her on the bed, ripped off her nightgown, and tried to have sex with her.
We are live in Fairfax, Virginia with day 14 of testimony. Law&Crime Daily covering court cases from coast to coast. Welcome everyone to Law&Crime Daily. I'm your host, Brian Buckmeyer. We're hearing from Amber Heard for the first time on the stand as a defendant in the multi-million-dollar defamation suit takes a stand. Our own Jesse Weber is live at the Fairfax County Courthouse in Virginia, where Heard's testimony began Thursday afternoon. Jesse?
Yeah, Brian, this is the testimony that we've been waiting for. Amber Heard telling her story in her own words. But, you know, before we even get to Heard, the day started off with the cross-examination of Heard's first witness, forensic psychologist Dr. Dawn Hughes. And you recall that Dr. Hughes testified that Heard showed symptoms and signs of being a victim of domestic violence. But Depp's attorney tried to show that the doctor was biased towards only thinking of men as perpetrators of violence. They had her acknowledge that it was possible Heard attacked Depp, and she also confirmed that everything Heard told this doctor was already after she had been sued by Depp, which kind of makes Heard's account a bit curious. But then it was the moment when Amber Heard, the defendant in this case, and also the plaintiff in her countersuit, took the stand. And she explained that being sued and sitting in court these past few weeks is the most difficult, painful thing that she has ever gone through. And she started by recounting her upbringing, her move to Hollywood, and how she met and fell in love with Johnny Depp after meeting him on the set of The Rum Diary. But soon the testimony took a grim turn as she described the first time Depp allegedly hit her.
Slapped me across the face. And I laughed. I laughed because I didn't know what else to do. I thought, this must be a joke. This must be a joke. Because I didn't know what was going on. I just stared at him, kind of laughing still, thinking that he was going to start laughing too to tell me it was a joke. But he didn't. I didn't want to leave him. I didn't want this to be the reality. I didn't want to have the man I was in love with. I know you don't come back from that. You know, I'm not dumb. I know you can't hit a woman. You can't hit a man. You can't hit anyone. You can't just hit somebody because they... I knew it was wrong, and I knew that I had to leave him. And that's what broke my heart, because I didn't want to leave him. I thought if I got up out of that room, I'd leave the best thing that ever happened to me.
Now, we think that Heard will be on the stand for quite some time, and of course things will get very interesting when she faces cross-examination by Depp's counsel. Brian?
Now, Jesse, I'm here in New York anticipating, waiting for Heard to take the stand, but you're there in Virginia. What was the jury's reaction and everyone else's reaction when Heard finally took the stand?
Well, both the jury and everyone in that gallery were glued to Amber Heard. They didn't look down very much. I will tell you, the jury was taking a lot of notes, and from what I could see, one of the female jurors actually was nodding her head just a little bit when Amber Heard was discussing the upbringing with horses and that. So there seemed to be maybe a bit of an acknowledgement there. But I will tell you that what I've been hearing in the courtroom, just the whispers, and remember, this seems to be a predominantly Johnny Depp-supported courtroom, are people who are making comments about her testimony and not quite agreeing or believing what she has to say. It's a fascinating sight, Brian.
Yeah, no, Jesse, I'm used to cross-examining people as a defense attorney, so one thing kind of made my ears perk up. Heard described this first alleged slap by Johnny Depp. A few things stuck out to me. First, that she called it stupid and insignificant, and then that she said that he slapped her off the couch, but it didn't hurt. How would you describe her retelling that story?
Look, it's her story. There are people going to look at it and say, oh, she's manufacturing this. It looks rehearsed. It's not really for me to say. It's for the jury to ultimately say, because I wasn't there, and this is her account. It's all going to be whether or not they believe her. And remember, it's all about if they believe at least one alleged instance of domestic abuse, and she might win this case. That's all that it takes. So her recounting this was a really important moment because it symbolized the first time that she was physically attacked by Johnny Depp.
Yeah. Now, amazing job this afternoon during lunch for you and Gene Rossi taking people's questions. But one thing I kind of disagreed with him, that we have a week off next week where no testimony is happening. I could see the lawyers getting together and saying, hey, let's resolve this. Everyone got their story out. We don't need a decision. Could we not see this case continue after this break, after Heard's done testifying?
It's a great point, because this is not only a case in the court of law, it's also the case of court of public opinion. Amber Heard fired her PR team for a reason, and it makes me wonder, was Johnny Depp taking the stand, tells his side of the story, she takes the stand, she tells her side of the story, they settle it, and then allow the public to try to make what is best of both of them. That could be a possibility, because why risk it for a jury? We'll wait and see, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, no one's got $50 million or $100 million, and they just want their reputation back. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Jesse, we're going to come right back. Great reporting as always. Still ahead on Law and Crime Daily, our coverage continues in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard defamation trial. We take a closer look at Amber Heard's testimony, why she says her relationship to Depp was kept a secret. Defamation trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. Amber Heard testifies how her relationship with Depp began.
Once we were back from the press tour, we had this, whirlwind romance kind of just in these like beautiful places all over, and we're falling in love and not able to really show it because he wasn't, that the world didn't know about the split between he and his former partner. And of course, as a woman, I was like, is that troubling? And I'd ask him, no, he swore to me that they hadn't even shared a bed for a year, and that they were protecting the kids and not publicizing it. Or not making it known to the press. And so we kind of had to be a little bit under the radar, not a little bit, we had to be really under the radar, because as Johnny pointed out, that the world would blame me and call me a homewrecker, even though I had nothing to do with it. So we were secretly dating, and then, it was beautiful. It was. I felt like this man knew me and saw me in a way that no one else had. I felt he understood me. I felt he understood where I came from. I felt that, like, when I was around Johnny, I felt like the most beautiful person in the whole world. It made me feel seen, made me feel like $1 million. And that kind of feeling where, it's just lavish gifts and lavish expressions of love, and how he had never met a woman like me.
Joining us today is criminal defense attorney Marie Pereira, co-host Terry Austin, and Law and Crime correspondent Jesse Weber. Marie, we are hearing and seeing pictures of Amber Heard's injuries or alleged injuries for the first time. Does this corroborate her claims of being a victim of abuse, or is more still needed?
I definitely think more is still needed. Listen, I empathize with a victim of intimate partner violence. I'm a DV counselor, so I don't take that lightly. But for now, I think the jury and the Depp, I think the defense in the Depp case has done such a great job at demonizing her that I'm looking at her testimony and it's looking a little bit rehearsed to me. And I'm saying that the injuries she's describing are not matching up with what she looked like. I'm also a registered nurse, and she's describing backhands, ringed hands. It's just too much damage for the little redness she's showing in the pictures. It doesn't match. I would need more corroboration if I was on the jury. I would need more. to show that type of injury based on what she's describing.
Interesting point there, and thank you for bringing your expertise to the table. Terry, from all that we've heard so far, doesn't Amber simply need to show she was not lying about one act of abuse to beat Depp's defamation claim?
Exactly, and Jesse mentioned this before. Technically, if Johnny was abusive once, then that's all we need, because the Washington Post op-ed article would have been truthful, and then that means there is no defamation claim. But it's more involved than that, in my opinion. If the jury thinks that she is making things up, that she's lying, that she's exaggerating, that 4 out of 5 incidents, say, for instance, did not happen, that means they could look at all of it and say that none of it happened. And it is definitely he said, she said, and that possibility could exist that they will discount everything she says because they don't believe 1 or 2 things that she says.
Absolutely. Now, Jesse, let me start off with this. A cavity search of a partner, of a woman, man, whatever, sounds horrific, disgusting. But as I listen to Amber Heard's allegations about that alleged cavity search, I start to think, didn't she say that she took mushrooms just moments or minutes beforehand? How are we taking this story as true if she's admitting that she's high in a substance where she may hallucinate or exaggerate what happened?
Well, she said it didn't have an effect on her yet, and you could say, well, how convenient it didn't have an effect. So obviously, it didn't have an effect and you're able to recount this. The other way of looking at it is, well, she could have just excluded that fact and said, I never took drugs. And look, of course, this is an important allegation because it not only supports domestic abuse, but more specifically, the sexual violence claim, which makes up one of the alleged defamatory statements in that Washington Post op-ed. The problem for Amber Heard, as we were just hearing from Marie, a lot of these allegations are behind closed doors, and the only evidence you have to support it is the testimony of Amber Heard. So it all becomes if the jury believes her or not.
All right, Jesse, great reporting as always. Thank you so much for being our man on the ground, so to speak, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Coming up on Law&Crime Daily, we take a closer look at the abuse allegations in the Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard trial. A forensic psychologist testifies for Amber Heard's team, but how does she hold up on cross? That's ahead on Law&Crime Daily. Look now at the alleged violent relationship between Johnny Depp and ex-wife Amber Heard. On direct examination, a forensic psychologist testified Depp called Heard demeaning names and violated her physically and sexually.
When Mr. Depp was drunk or high, he threw her on the bed, ripped off her nightgown, and tried to have sex with her. There were times when he forced her to give him oral sex when he was angry. These weren't in loving moments. These were angry moments, moments of dominance, moments of him trying to get control over her. There was another incident in the Bahamas where when he got angry, he took his fingers and he put them in her vagina and moved her around violently in the closet. Again, an act of sexual violence. And of course, the incident in Australia was one of the most severe instances of sexual violence that Miss Heard had to endure, in which when he was beating her and choking her and telling her, I'm going to kill you, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, and he grabbed a bottle that was on the bar and penetrated her with that bottle. And Miss Heard reported to me of dissociating and going outside of her body, and the only thing she was thinking is, oh God, I hope it's not the broken one.
On cross, Depp's attorneys pushed back about the Australia incident and Heard's alleged actions during the argument.
Is it your testimony that throwing a can of mineral spirits at your spouse is characteristic of reactive violence?
If you are running away from your spouse who is trying to hurt you, yes.
All right, so you can throw a can of mineral spirits. What about if you throw a can of Red Bull?
Again, it depends on the incident I think that you're referring to. That was not necessarily reactive violence. That was in a state of frustration or anger.
All right, so when you throw a can of Red Bull in a state of frustration or anger, that's not reactive violence?
No.
All right. What about if you throw a bottle of vodka because your husband fell off the wagon? Is that reactive violence?
Are you asking me hypothetically?
I'm asking you, would that be a characteristic of reactive violence? Throw a bottle of vodka because your husband fell off the wagon.
If it's in the middle of an assault, perhaps. If it's independent of that, no.
Right. So, for instance, if your husband was just having a couple of shots at the bar.
Again, you would need more information and context to make that determination.
All right. You don't think that's a reflection of reactive violence? And you'll agree with me that when you throw the second bottle, that's not reactive violence.
If somebody's throwing multiple bottles, again, psychological violence and abuse is psychologically destabilizing, which destabilizes individuals' coping strategies. That is absolutely true.
Terry, a shocking point, at least to me, came out during Dr. Hughes' direct that if Heard came into a session with black eyes and bruises from Depp, that resources would have been put together to help. But that didn't happen. So how do you think either side will use that fact?
You know what, Brian? The fact that no one provided Heard with first aid means to me that she did not need first aid, and so no one rendered it. And so far, everything we have heard has come from Amber Heard's mouth or from her physicians, and she was the one who told all of the physicians and the nurses, this is what Johnny Depp did to me. And you have to think about her own testimony today. The fact that she is saying he choked her, he slapped her, he held her down, he did all of this violence, and yet she had these minor injuries. She has one picture of a red cheek. If in fact he did all of this, like Marie said, he would have had to punch her very heavily, and she would have injuries showing on her face and her body.
Yeah. Now, Marie, I think this is part of the strategy to put Dr. Hughes on first and then Amber Heard. Do you think that the doctor did enough, even after cross-examination, to pave the way for Amber Heard's testimony?
I think under the circumstances, that doctor did an excellent job. And I think choosing to put her on as a first witness was excellent strategy. She, Dawn Hughes, was like a vintage version of Depp's expert, except she was more qualified, board certified, poised, compelling, believable, and she stood a grueling cross, and she did not let Depp's lawyers shake her at all. She was a winner with this because she paved the way to explain what is domestic violence, why do people stay, and she did the best she could to set the foundation for Heard's testimony. It is just that they did such a good job, again, at making her look like a liar, a demon, a sick person, that it's hard to believe her testimony with all the drama, all the fake crying. I don't see a lot of tears, but I see a lot of acting up there, in my opinion.
Well, Amber Heard, I would expect will be on the stand for quite some time, so let's see if she's able to do that as we continue. Thank you both. When we come back, the couple known as the Doomsday Duo will soon face trial. Now prosecutors intend to seek the death penalty for Chad and Lori Daybell. Welcome back. Idaho prosecutors will seek the death penalty against Doomsday Cult duo Lori and Chad Daybell. Recently filed court documents show. Chad Daybell was already facing the death penalty in the case. Now attorneys in Fremont and Madison counties say they'll seek capital punishment for Lori Vallow Daybell as well. The state will go for the death penalty if Lori is convicted of any of the counts of first-degree murder or conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. The pair is charged with killing two of Lori's children, Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow. Tylee Ryan and JJ were 16 and 7 years old when they were last seen in September of 2019. Lori and Chad never reported them missing, and police say they didn't cooperate with investigators before fleeing out of state. The couple were found in Hawaii a few months later. Then in June 2020, the remains of Vallow's children were found on Chad's property. Lori was initially declared mentally unfit to stand trial, but that changed last month. Lori is set to go to trial in October. A hearing is set for May 19th to discuss delaying that to recombine it with Chad's trial date in January 2023. Marie, was the death penalty expected for this case, or were you shocked by this by any chance?
I was shocked that something like that would happen. Those were her children. And I think the death penalty is appropriate because this act was heinous. These children were helpless. And then there was multiple victims. And then they tried to hide it. If any case deserves the death penalty, it would be this one.
That makes sense. Infanticide of your own children is definitely a heinous crime. Terry, what, if anything, does this change procedurally or how this is going to work out for Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell's trial?
Well, we know that the death penalty is constitutional. The Supreme Court has said that it is, and it doesn't violate the Eighth Amendment, cruel and unusual punishment. But in Idaho, like most other states, from a procedural standpoint, what it means now is they're going to have to show, the prosecution will have to show that there are aggravating factors for the, murder and for the conspiracy to commit murder crime. And I don't think that will be a problem. There are multiple aggravating factors, including the fact that it's involving children. There was the disregard for human life. There's this propensity for these individuals to be committing murder, and they are a continuing threat to society. So I think it's going to be easy to get it.
All right, well, thank you very much both for your input today. And thank you for joining us here on Law and Crime Daily. We'll see you next time as we discuss justice in America.